Welcome to episode 74 of the Critical Fools podcast. This week, we're going to be discussing Moneyball, film directed by Benedict Miller, starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. It is based on a book that actually I read, Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game. And it tells the story of basically a certain famous general manager named Billy Beane while he was managing the Oakland A's and how he had to compete in the sport of baseball in a system where at the time there was no real luxury tax. Now there is. But even now, even in today's game, like the more money on your payroll, in theory, the better your team could be. And how he can compete with, the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees and other, the San Francisco Giants in a sport where, he's given a very modest payroll. But yeah, so I guess to open up, since you're somebody who used to like the A's, what were your thoughts on the film as a whole, and portraying the A's in that era? I mean, did you have nostalgia? Did you you appreciated it a little more, or
a little bit of nostalgia? Personally, I was never the biggest baseball fan. I just didn't grow up. I was not very good at baseball, period, when I was like a little kid, so I kind of gravitated away from the sport. But out of the two, so for context, Chris and I both grew up in the Bay Area, and so most people that we had hung around or went to school with, they were usually Giants fans. But a lot of my family personally were Raider fans. So as a little kid, I tended to gravitate towards that team in the Bay Area in Oakland, and as a consequence, I kind of grew up an A's fan a bit as well, not the most hardcore. But it did bring. They've been so sad for so long, and it is a little tragic. And they just got news late this week that they're going to be moving to Sacramento. But it did bring me a sense of nostalgia because I went to the last A's game I went was about 5 years ago, more or less, and it was sad because there may have been 5,000 fans there, maybe. And like my tickets were dirt cheap. And it's really sad to see the condition that the Coliseum had come to and what this great organization has really come to as well, given their ownership not wanting to pay, like a bunch of things that has really plagued the franchise. But it did pull at me just seeing sort of like what they were able to achieve and overcome during the season in 2002. But it is seeing that and seeing the last A's game, you really see like a sense of like hopelessness or despair from the franchise because it's just, and most people don't know this, but the A's from when they were in Philadelphia and Oakland combined, they have the third most World Series titles of any MLB franchise. And just hearing that stat, which blows people away compared to where they're at today, it's really sad how far they've fallen.
Yeah, they're not winning one anytime soon.
No, they're 1-7 start out this season.
Yeah, they're moving to Sacramento temporarily before their Vegas move. And I think what people forget, because maybe they don't have the localized knowledge, is that there was two incidents. Well, not incidents. I guess it's incidents. There was the potential move to Fremont that fell through. And then there was
and this is where like local politics get into play, because I remember a lot of these moves, and that was largely blocked by the Giants.
Yeah, well, I think the one they really blocked was the one in San Jose, because they said that they had the territorial rights.
Yeah, something happened. Yeah, they were trying to move to San Jose, which infuriated me because we're both like South Bay natives, and I wanted to see the A's come. Hey, never mind. Go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to get on a big rant aside.
Yeah, but basically the Giants, this is actually when I learned about territorial rights. I didn't know about this term until this situation came up. But baseball teams apparently have it's how old school baseball is. Each team has actually like a region that is their protected area for like getting fans. And I think even where they can put their minor league teams.
Do you know the whole context on how they got South Bay territorial rights though?
I don't. You probably do, because I
know never too much about this, dude.
Okay, take it away before we get back into the movie.
No, oh man, this is why you triggered me with this movie in many ways. Okay, so in '91, around the time we were born, this Giants were supposed to come to San Jose. They were supposed to make a move, And like you can look up old clips of them announcing. They have one of the local politicians in San Jose holding up a jersey saying San Jose Giants. And it was like surreal to see, like when you look at it, and you're like, I forgot exactly what was happening during that time and why they wanted to move down to the South Bay. But some local rep in San Jose blocked it because I think there was just she thought that they were going to give too many tax breaks or too many incentives. And so that whole thing got nixed. But what ended up happening since that deal fell through, as part of it, they since they were going to move to the South Bay, they were given territorial rights, but that should have been rescinded when they actually never moved down to the South Bay. But based on a lot of lobbying and some shady things, basically Santa Clara County got incorporated into as part of the Giants' territorial rights at that point in the early 90s. And I believe Santa Clara County in the baseball charter or constitution, because it's been amended, it's the only county that's actually listed in like the baseball content. Anyway, like, so a lot of this stuff triggers me because they never came through. I don't know why they were given rights. There was a lot of shady corruption. For those of you that don't know, like the MLB has gone through a lot of like corruption, like scandals, because they've had like basically there's been a lot of lawsuits throughout the decades over like antitrust issues with MLB, and for some reason they always get protection, because it's like America's pastime. So it is a little frustrating because our city that we grew up, they've gotten blocked and kind of like thrown under the bus many times when it comes to baseball.
Yeah, I mean, at least you have the minor league team Giants. You can always support them.
That doesn't mean oh my.
You come with my jab, dude. Yeah. Anyways, going back to the film, the backdrop of where we're placed, because the book is more obviously comprehensive, but the film chooses to pick a certain storyline it follows. Picks up the important points that I think if you didn't read the book, you kind of need from the movie. But basically, the A's are still like competitive in these early 2000s period, and they're about to lose like Johnny Damon, Giambi. These are like big name players at the time.
Huge. Jason Giambi, I hadn't thought about in a long time, and that just hearing that name brought back so much nostalgia.
Yeah, and they're going to be offshore. I mean, they're going to be unloaded because like they're going to get better contracts for teams that are going to pay them more. And Billy Beane has an owner that is not going to really increase the payroll, even though he would like to increase the payroll. So he's back to the drawing board. And I think it's early in the movie where he talks to he sees the scouts. And this is obviously an extreme depiction because he's the filmmaker is trying to make a point about like how scouting is done and how it's very like ad hoc, how it's very like
you trust your gut. You trust your gut.
Yeah. He's got like they say terms like, oh, he's got a pretty face, he's got a nice swing, but it doesn't tell you if like they're gonna be like a great player other than like they look the part, right?
I mean, yeah, that's why Jay Cutler was given a big contract. Sorry, I had to throw that.
Okay. Anyways, Jay Cutler's ex-wife is dating that TikToker now, dude. Anyways, But what I wanted to really highlight is that, like, what's interesting is that, like, in many ways, Moneyball and the A's actually revolutionized not just baseball, but other sports. Maybe we'll get to that towards the end. But basically, the GM, Billy Beane, realizes that, like, and he's probably one of the first ones to realize, actually, is that, like, he's not going to win scouting and developing players like the Dodgers, Yankees, and the big names. And I think it's obviously contrived in the movie a little bit. Jonah Hill's character. I think Jonah Hill's character is supposed to represent like all a certain archetype of like the new mode of thinking that would come into baseball.
Yeah, the new nerdy style of statistics.
And basically Jonah Hill's character obviously gets introduced through a meeting where he's like he nixes a deal, but not because of his name, but because he's advising another dude.
Yeah, with the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, and Brad Pitt, talks to him like, why did that happen? And then he explains to him why he likes this player, and then he basically hires him. And that speeds it up into like how Billy Beane, especially in the book, it goes into how he changed how the team operate, right? From like how we deal with the manager, how we treat what the manager role is, and then also how like we're going to develop and scout players. Because
I'm confused. I didn't read the book. Wasn't Jonah Hill's character actually based on someone in real life, the assistant GM?
yes, he was based on somebody, but I think he changed the name and probably tweaked things so that he could fill many characters. But he is based on one guy, but like there's other things that are like,
I had also read that the actual assistant GM that Pete is based on went to Harvard for one, and it was also nowhere near as awkward and was way more confident personality.
Yes, Hollywood likes their depictions of the nerdy smart guy. But you don't get into baseball if you're not confident. I'll say that. Yeah, you gotta stick by your opinions. And so, yeah, like just to set it up, like I think obviously Brad Pitt is like takes. I mean, he's great in this movie. Like he's like really. John Hill's good too, but this is definitely a Brad Pitt movie. And what I wanted to ask you about was like, because one thing that Michael Lewis talks about, sorry to bring the book in a little bit, is that because he's asked often, like, why did the A's decline? Well, he says he has a great answer. He says, like, well, there's a lot of issues with the A's, but more importantly, once the cat got out of the bag, that this is
how they were running things, everyone adopted.
When everybody adopts it and they have more money and resources to get hire better people or the best people, and the A's now are like the competitive landscape is still the same problem. Where like we don't have the resources to get the best analytics department like the Astros or the Dodgers or whatever. And now we're back to square one. And now he obviously with Michael Lewis, apparently his style is like he likes to follow a person. And actually the movie does what the book kind of does, where it juxtaposes his story with his GM story. So like those scenes where like Billy Beane's like, he was touted as a great prospect once, and then he realizes that like he doesn't got it. And every scout got it wrong, telling him he was a generational talent, 5-star, 5-tool player like Bryce Harper is. And he was like, I'm not a Bryce Harper, obviously. That was actually interesting technique, and I think it really worked with this film. I don't know what you thought around the following Billy Beane's playing career and his upbringing and his GM career. But Michael Lewis, to finish his point, said like, once other teams copied and they still had limited resources, they were just screwed.
Yeah,
and
you're back to square one.
And like this was their last moment, really. And I was just like, damn, this guy's brutal.
I mean, he's not wrong. What was it, from 2006 to like 2010? They didn't make the playoffs. That's right. True. So their moment was fleeting. They had a brief run, and we talked about this off pod. The last time I like really paid close attention was I think like the 2012 season for the A's. That's when they had Coco Crisp. And I don't remember exactly all the moves, but I remember him in the playoffs. They made the playoffs, and Coco Crisp hit a walk-off single. But that was their last fleeting moment. I think that was the last time they made the playoffs. So they haven't had too many moments since, and I don't see them having many anytime soon.
They can't, because the edge they had gone briefly was copied across the league, right? And actually across sports in many ways. But going back to the film, I guess I'm curious what your thoughts of how Brad Pitt depicted his character, Jonah Hill's acting, because I know Jonah Hill's more of a comedic actor. I'm curious what you thought about his performance.
I mean, there was
scenes and stuff.
There was a ton of comedy. I think it was just depicting. Jonah Hill was supposed to represent as like the shifting tides and how baseball managing is done, right? And it was kind of this nerdy look of statistical analysis to try to evaluate players and find players that are undervalued, right? And just to like, it was basically an equation that he was using, and it's just, I mean, like in terms of the characters, I think it's they did a good job. Like I have no issues with their acting. I would say more what's interesting was just always the pushback that you get when you try new things, especially in sports.
That's a theme of the book as well, and I think the movie of like being different. The first being a maverick, yeah,
it's in every sport.
Yeah, or things in life.
I remember when people were freaking out over Chip Kelly's offense. right? Like it was just revolutionizing, fast pace. Remember that? Like there were all these trends that like freaked the traditionalists out from the pro style offense in college, where you'd go no huddle. I remember like seeing that, and everyone was like, "What the heck? What the heck is going on?" And, like Chip Kelly's the one who really pushed that quite a bit. It was just like quick tempo, fast, right? Then you went to the spread offense, and I just use football because those are easy things to really point to in sports. But you can talk about this even in soccer, NBA, whatever you want. I mean, look at
Man, I love that run and shoot offense. Let's throw 70 times.
yeah. You loved all that. I mean, Hawaii had their own with Colt Brennan.
Yeah, that's the run and shoot.
Who was it with?
Air Raid was the Mike
Air
Leach.
Raid in Texas Tech, right? All of that started in like the. It's interesting now that I think about it. It was around the early to mid 2000s. A lot of that started to happen. Then you started seeing other exotic types, like the Wildcat offense, but even on top of that, with Chip Kelly's. I remember like when I was a kid and kind of like first learning football, everything was very conservative. And then, like, you slowly started with Chip Kelly, and then onwards, it's just common today. Everyone looks on percentages of, like, should we go for it on, like, four? I feel like if you're within 4th and 5, everybody goes for it now. Whereas, like, 20 years ago, no one was doing that, or it was very rare.
Yeah, and baseball changed too. Like now, I think a lot of folks appreciate the walk, the RBI. The A's pushed that off. They were stats that others were saying like, why?
It's all about on base percentage.
Yeah, if you get on base, it means you can score, and they just want to get runs. It was about drilling down the game to like what is the outcome we want and how we get to that outcome.
Yeah.
And obviously the purists didn't like it because, baseball is an old sport in this country, a sport that I'll quote the legendary, I don't know if it's Ken Burns or Bob Costas that said that you can't understand America without understanding baseball. And one of them said that. Ken Burns has like a 30-hour documentary, by the way, on the history of baseball, which I have to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's always daunting. Like I don't know if I can watch like that many
30 hours of baseball is brutal.
It's like from the beginning of like how the sport started to like, all the way to the modern era. I was like, damn.
Do you agree with that? You can't understand America without understanding baseball?
I have to finish the documentary and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I got to watch the documentary too because I don't know if I agree with it.
Because Ken Burns, who I actually respect, I've watched his Vietnam one. I've watched also Civil War one.
I'd argue today it's more American football.
Yeah, he was saying American like history and like the people.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Because Ken Burns says after he did that project in an interview with Charlie Rose, I actually listened to this interview. Charlie Rose, otherwise canceled, but he says that like in his opinion, obviously people love Jordan and all these great athletes, but to him, the true an athlete that transcended being an athlete and an American hero is Jackie Robinson. After studying his story and stuff, and I was just like, damn, I gotta learn more about. I mean, I know about Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, we know about Jackie.
I gotta do more deep dive. There's a museum here that I haven't attended yet, but because he played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, but
yeah, he did.
But it was a really strong statement for like somebody who's like I would say one of the top tier American documentary filmmakers to state actually. So I have to give it some respect before I disagree or agree on it, but I have to obviously do the good diligence. But my point really is that like, it's interesting how it was baseball that ended up starting this revolution that would occur, like you said, across all sports,
Every sport. I mean, even look at like we talked about soccer, right? Like you can see the difference in, I mean, you loved Arsene Wenger for his tactics. But you can even look at like Pep Guardiola with like possession ball. Like there's so many things that kind of started to change and revolutionize.
Well, no, the ultimate revolution is not even those because like that was like old debates that people had forever. Is it like now when they show fans stats, they show them expected goals, expected shots on target. Yep. Like this is stuff that like when I was watching when I was a teenager or younger, like it was just like who won and who had more of the ball, who had more tackles. Now it's like expected interceptions, how many interceptions. I was like, so like people have analyzed the game to a degree where I would argue there's some over analysts on analyzing, but I'm old school. So sometimes you just gotta.
That's often your issue with the NBA today too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the guy that still says stuff like sometimes you just gotta show character on the field, dude.
You love
like,
your
well,
tropes.
no analytics, dude. Just show me you got the courage to make that throw, dude.
But you do love analytics too.
I do. I mean, because it's a great way to understand the game and inefficiencies in the game. So,
But so I will say, like, as much as analytics, sometimes you got to trust your gut.
exactly.
And I
I
think
mean,
that's what you're getting to. And I agree
exactly.
in moments. But oftentimes, like, there's some times where I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you going for it here? Like, not even I appreciate the bravery, but this is stupidity.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell's too guilty of that. But
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm thinking of.
yeah, he's like, I
The
followed the
Lions,
chart.
they
I'm
blew
like,
that game.
yeah, they blew it. They should have been kneeling. They should have been killing the clock.
No, but when I'm like, you're up 10 and you can kick a field goal, go up 13 or something like that, and you go for it and you lose that play, and then the Niners come back. You could just feel the momentum.
Yeah, it's just terrible. That's when you follow the stat sheet too much. Dude. You're looking at the percentages like we're supposed to go for. It's like,
I mean,
and then
you got that gut feel sometimes. Yeah.
he's like, that's how. And then he says, that's who we are. I'm like, well, that's rough to say that. But okay.
I respect it, but I mean, you got to be smart sometimes.
But either way, but yeah. So basically, this film I don't think does anything crazy stylistically. I think what really compels, and this is why it's probably based on a book, is it's the story, right? Like it's the story of like the underdog who found a winning edge, and actually I think still holds the AL record for a winning streak, and did it in a way that I think shocked everybody, right? With players that most people devalued, with a strategy that nobody thought could actually build a winning like system. Obviously, we already touched upon that it wasn't sustainable, right? And it fell apart for them. But yeah, I'm curious. How did you? I mean, did you know about the winning streak, or did you learn that through the?
I had heard about it. I just
yeah.
haven't thought about it in a long time because like I said, I don't follow baseball super. And then like I was like, oh yeah, like I remember this, or like hearing this in the background when we were kids.
I think an underappreciated storyline that I think still exists today and is because the other thing that I think people have complained about is actually the pitch count. They really shut down pitchers really early in games because of analytics. But what I really wanted to ask was like, so Art Howe is the manager of the A's at the time, and I think they do a really good depiction of like,
yeah, what's his name? Philip Seymour Hoffman plays him, right?
Yeah, they do a really good depiction of like how that relationship changed between the GM and the manager. Because I feel like before this, let's call it Moneyball era, the manager was like really like, like Joe Torre, right? Like got book deals, was highly touted. But now like, who really gets more credit for the Red Sox, when they broke their curse? Theo Epstein was the GM. Now I feel like the sport's become more of a GM centric.
Yeah, but they even show that with Art. Like he gets all the credit for the winning streak, and they're like, dude, like we assembled this team.
Yeah, and he just there to do some basic moves.
But I think that to your point, like that's starting to shift or that has shifted.
It has shifted. I think in baseball, like when I hear about everybody talk about the Astros, they don't even talk about the manager many times. We're just like, oh, the Astros front office, they know what they're doing. They cheat, but they know what they're doing, and it's like. Yeah, but it's because like it's that baseball more than any other sport has become very front office driven. And like if you have the right structure up there, like usually you can plug and play your managers for better or worse. And I think the film touches upon what that shift was happening, is that the manager is really there to do what the front office directs him to do, and not really to have some novel ideas of his own. So I'm curious to like.
I think that's true and not, because I think in other sports, like managers can play a very pivotal role too.
Well, I'm speaking specifically about baseball.
Okay, I mean you could say that with got to plug and play, but like with the Warriors, their manager made some great moves to assemble their team during their dynasty run, right?
Yeah, well, the plug and play there is you have Steph Curry, dude, the best shooter of a
like
lifetime.
the Wiggins trade that everyone criticized him for that fourth chip was brilliant. Not that he's like been great since, but he was very good during that time. Became an all-star.
That's true.
And so many people criticized them for that trade when they got rid of D'Angelo Russell. Anyway, getting off to a different sport. What was your question with exactly for with that shift in baseball?
Yeah, I'm curious what you thought of how they played that depiction, because I thought it was a very tactful way of like showing through a movie what was going to happen I mean, it's the movie's made later, right? So showing what they already knew was happening, which was like the baseball was changing in a way that the power was shifting from GM from coach.
But
And
I don't know if they fully showed that, because even when they were talking about their streak, they gave all the credit. You can hear the announcer talking about it to they gave all the credit to Art. And that's even Joanna Hill's like, are you hearing this? And he's talking, but the GM's not paying attention. Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah, I know. And I think they did that because the time period was still novel, right? They were saying that Art was pulling miracles because like the roster look, how could it make sense, right? Only after the fact, when people have studied the team, realized that it was really just because this new strategy was really working with emphasizing other stats versus other ones, right? So I think to your point, you're right, where like the film is trying to capture the period, but I think they're also trying to balance like hinting of like what was to come, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the film did. I mean, this is the same guy that did the Foxcatcher. So it's like he kind of understands how to do like sports movies. It seems so.
Foxcatcher was a great movie.
Like balancing that because you want to balance with becoming like a documentary versus like showing a story, right? And he seems like he knows how to show a story versus like, oh, this is all the events that happened and this is why they're famous. Like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
What did you think of Brad Pitt's Billy Bean's character and interaction with the ex-wife and the daughter? I thought that gave a bit of a human nature to like the brutality of sports and the pressure that exists in the highest level.
Well, I mean, he was divorced, and I think the job is just very demanding, so he doesn't always have time for family. I think I probably put a big.
And then that scene that like the daughter asks, like, "You're gonna get fired," because you know you always forget like the family is also what gets.
Well, when I heard that, that just made me think of like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
That was I don't know. Like, I mean, but that's the case with any high level sports job, right? Like it's results driven.
Except for your Mike McCarthy. Anyways,
well, he's got one of them.
Yeah, he's been milking that for way too long, man. That's what he's pitching too. That he won his the Super Bowl is fourth or fifth.
What did he say? What did he say? He's like, I know how to win championships. I was dying at that press conference when he lost.
Boy, and the reporter gave him a layup. Like, are you confident because you won your fifth year? I think it was his fifth year with the Packers. He's like, you're in your fifth year with he's like, yeah, that gives me a lot. I was like, really? Based on what, dude? You were fluked out of that one, but okay, we'll let you.
Wait, no, he had prime Rogers at that point. And
the greatest leader of men I've ever seen in Charles Woodson. Okay,
I was going to say Woodson, yeah.
Yeah, like I was. So what exactly did Big Mike do? Like nothing.
Yeah, man, Woodson is someone who grew up a Packer fan, and family was a big fan of the Raiders. I always loved Woodson. He was like my favorite player.
Dude, Heisman winner, team captain everywhere he went, and you're gonna tell me, Mike, that you're the reason you did anything, dude? Fuck off, dude. Like, I couldn't stand that press conference. I was just like, you're gonna fail next year, and then you're gonna have another excuse, dude. Like you can't even get to the NFC Championship game, dude. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Anyways,
they win a game. Have they won a playoff game?
They beat the Bucks that one year.
No. I meant McCarthy and the Cowboys.
Yeah, he won. He beat the Bucks in playoffs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, one playoff game. Oh, and I think it's
one, right? Last year.
Yeah, because they got to the divisional. Yeah,
that's right. Who do they get spanked by?
No, that was a pretty tough game. It was the Niners. Niners beat them, but it was like tight. The problem is that Dak threw 2 interceptions, and you're not going to win that.
That's all right. Yeah. You know what else was a tight game? That Packers Cowboys game.
That was not tight. That was like I was like watching that. I was just like, wow, this is really going to happen, dude. Like. There's gonna be an embarrassing blowout, dude.
Bro, they folded like a house of cards in that game. That was crazy. I was watching that and it was glorious.
And then what's funny is that like my Cowboy friend is like, well, yeah, I could see your point that Big Mike could get fired, but this is all Dan Quinn's fault. I'm like, what kind of mentality is this, dude? He said, you can't be giving up. You can't be getting cooked by all your former assistants. Because Dan Quinn does get cooked by like all the offensive guys he used to have on his staff.
Matt LaFleur, yeah,
Shanahan and stuff. It's like, yeah, he does get cooked a lot. I will say that's kind of weird, but but I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I feel like there's a cultural problem there. But anyways, getting back to the baseball. Actually, back to winning. Actually, is a perfect segue. I think one of my favorite scenes, maybe because I believe in this philosophy, is that Jonah Hill's character asks him like why he's not happy half the time, even though they're having the success doing this, building a revolutionary team with a, let's
I know
say,
where you're going with this. Yeah.
in an ad hoc roster to the outside world, but they had a meticulous plan that actually didn't go well in the beginning, right? They had to really stick to the plan, right? That was
No, it actually did. It did go well at the well. What do you mean by the beginning? First 25 games are 15-10.
Yeah, I guess like the point
So
where
they are like obviously in the film you know how it's going to play out, but no, if you look back at the record breakdowns, 15-10 is not a terrible way to start with their roster.
that's true.
But then they went on a bad losing streak, right? And then like their ebbs and flows, and all of a sudden big winning streak and started like everything started changing.
But the scene I like is that like he asks him like, why you're not happy about it. And he's like, it doesn't matter unless we win the final game. And I always believe in that philosophy. Like, it doesn't matter unless you win the final game. And I think in the end, like that was just his personality and his competitive spirit, because Michael Lewis in the book says like he understood that perspective. But like when you have, because he's not a huge baseball guy himself, when you have like a different point of view, you see that like he did actually like do something that was beyond just winning a title. But like obviously to a competitor that's a baseball guy like Billy Beane, like I mean he never got it done, right? Like we know how this story ends because he was eventually like
but I think with Billy Beane and kind of the mentality he has, and what a lot of sports fans unfortunately like, they just kind of hold this belief, it's more of what have you done for me lately? So he did that, but then like 2-3 years later people were kind of calling for his job. A little bit longer, but when they had a little playoff drought, they were calling for his job.
Well, that's what happens in sports. It's like it's what you've done for me lately. It's and it's that's how it is. That's the life of sports. And I'm not saying he didn't deserve to get. I actually think he did deserve to get canned, because I don't know why you would stay with the A's that long. Anyways,
bro, it's crazy to me that he turned down that offer from the Red Sox, and the Red Sox won 2 years later.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I think also like I think that's what I think that's why they added. I think that's what they added the family component, because like when a coach has to or a GM has to move places, that just displaces the family or whatever relationships he has with the family, right? So like it's not just like a flip of the switch,
But he wants to win. He always complained about the minimal resources with the A's, and it's sad because Oakland is just such an underdog kind of city, and you see it based on like I'm sure have you seen baseball games at different ballparks around?
Yeah, I have.
Like, yeah, you've been to the Mets, you've been to Yankees.
I've been to A's game.
And then you go to the Coliseum, you go to the Giants, and then you go to the Coliseum. And it's this split usage venue between the Raiders.
Yeah, no.
And it's just sad because it's so emblematic of the city. It's like they are just underfunded, don't have resources, just kind of that gritty mentality. And yeah, it's just interesting because I give kudos to Billy. He stuck with the team, and he's still a senior advisor.
Yeah, he had to step away. Probably he was like, "This never." Yeah, well, actually, now he's complicit with this hijacking move. So I'm not so sure. I'm so nice to the guy. Okay,
this hijacking move.
I mean, the A's are like, they totally dumped the city of Oakland. They moving to Sacramento, going to Vegas.
To be fair, though, they shared like it always pissed me off that two sports shared one venue. Like it's gross. That venue is ugly.
It is pretty bad, but and it's falling apart.
Dude.
It is falling apart.
But it's been like that for decades.
Yeah, I don't think that the new project to redevelop is gonna take off. So.
No, but that's my point. Oh man, I mean, the city of Oakland politicians, all that they never showed any love, never got any outside interest. Even Oracle Arena was not the greatest. So are you that's surprised when these teams leave? The areas around there are terrible.
Yeah, they're terrible. But Oracle Arena, let's put some respect on that. That was one of the best venues for noise and passion.
It was not
versus this techno garbage new stadium, the Chase Center.
Look, I agree with you, but my whole point is the city never did anything to show the area some love there.
They got no money.
Well, they make bad decisions too, Chris.
Oh, yeah,
let's be real. I mean,
Oakland's run poorly. I'm not going to say it's
like terribly, and it's sad because there's some really nice areas to it. It should be a much nicer area than it is. And that's what like makes me sad because I've seen a couple other ballparks around. I went to Wrigley, dude. You go there outside Wrigley, beautiful, beautiful baseball stadium. But beyond that, there's restaurants and bars right alongside it. It's just a good vibe, good feelings. I go outside the Coliseum, I think I might get jumped.
Yeah, it's basically you want to go back to the BART.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
and that's my whole point with it. They never did anything to kind of develop to see that like back in the 80s or the 70s. Like there's no vision. And that's emblematic of like the East Bay and the South Bay. No vision.
South Vision has a vision now. South
No
Bay has
vision.
a vision.
Not a single one.
They have a vision now. It's rebuild.
Not one. They don't do much.
Well, downtown is bad, but they got the Levi's, the San Jose Sharks that are getting back.
Levi, what's around Levi?
Great America. Anyways, the so that one out of the butt. Okay, yeah, it's not well planned out. But anyways,
but that's emblematic of a lot of Bay Area. And I can't comment on Chase Center. I think San Francisco tends to do things a little bit better with planning.
I mean, the Chase Center. I've been in the Chase Center. It's actually a fine venue. It's actually just a little bit below where the SF Giants play. So it's near the Caltrain stop. Okay. But I actually don't think.
Location.
But but I think to your point, there's not that much to like around there. I think what most people do after the games, they go up. They don't actually stick around.
But you go around Fenway, you go around some of the other areas, and there's a lot going on.
Except for the Mets. Don't worry about that one.
I don't know about the Mets. Yankees too is a little dicey.
Yeah, it's dicey over there. Exactly.
Yeah, we've been on. You're right, but there's certain areas that do it pretty well, and that's
Philly does it well. Philly does it well. Philly does it well because all those teams are in the same.
They're right there.
You can actually walk.
I think Houston does the same thing.
Yeah, that's really convenient. I would like that. that's a sports town. That to me is like that's a sports town. It's designed for people like me. I watch the baseball game. I go watch the hockey. There we go. Perfect day.
Right next to it. But it makes it easier because it's a sports district, and then you can just have your bars and restaurants right around there.
Yeah, it is sad that I will say that the Devils, there's more options than downtown or the Sharks play. It's kind of
really in Newark.
Yeah, because at least design wise. You're obviously still some shady areas, but you can leave the stadium and go to some nearby pubs and stuff and restaurants.
How is that not the? Yeah. Anyway.
Well, you still got to walk all the way down to downtown. It's not 2 blocks away. You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
Anyway, we're getting off topic, but yeah. So you were talking about the A's leaving. Yeah, unfortunately, that's a sad reality, but I'm not totally surprised.
This movie also uses. They touch upon some other themes that are just about the GM and Moneyball. I think they talk about one of the scenes that happens is the cutting of players and how it's brutal it is at the top level where you're just told you got to go down. Yeah,
you got demoted to AAA ball.
Yeah, I thought the movie did well in because I think the movie had a balance. People who are not into baseball or the A's be interested in the story. It's about baseball and the A's and mix in the personality stuff. Yeah,
as much as it's about statistics and that revolution, it's a story about the human level at the end of the day
and the underdog.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, we can sprint to the end because this is just a sports movie, so it's not like we have to dissect every little thing. Yeah, I would say that so just to wrap up, the ending is obviously the A's actually have a successful regular season, fail in the playoffs again. Billy Beane has offered the job with the Red Sox. John Henry, who would buy the Red Sox and eventually win multiple World Series with Theo Epstein. He declines the offer because he wants to stay in Oakland. Probably for family and also maybe his pride. Who knows? And this film was made years ago. This is before, like you said, he stepped down to be a special advisor and stuff. So he's still trying to win that final game. How's how that movie ends. And, I think now we obviously know the real history, right? That he never won that final game, and they're probably not getting close anytime soon.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I the reason I picked this film is because not just that we're in baseball season, and the new season is starting, and obviously the A's are in the headlines a little bit, but when I see the modern product of baseball, you see the A's impact, right? Like you have now like pitchers that are getting pitch counts, they're managed so tightly. Actually, a lot of baseball writers think that that's part of the problem with the appeal is that like when not younger fans, but fans of a different era, they love talking about like, starting, pitchers and like they were like stars. And now like you have some starting pitchers that are stars, but they get pulled so quickly in innings because they make so much money and they need to stay healthy, right?
I don't know. I mean, there's still a pretty big star in, despite the fact that he's in some controversy in Otani.
No, I meant pitching. That is the context of pitching. I was listening to was it Dan Patrick? He was interviewing a baseball writer and he was complaining about how, it's almost better to. They were debating whether it's better to be like a closer versus the starting pitcher because like
wait, no. Otani is a pitcher.
Yeah, he's not pitching this year because of his injury. Okay, like yes, he plays two sports. Okay, he's an anomaly. That's not what I'm talking about.
I was like, am I misremembering something? I don't follow the Dodgers.
No, but he ripped his elbow and he won't be doing that for a while. But obviously the hitters still get the love and stuff, but I think the sport has just changed how even they're talking about it, right? With like we said, walks and RBIs and runs batted in being a very important metric too now. And I think like how some of the modern fans consume the sport has changed because of obviously the A's. So I think there is a legacy impact here. But I think what's true about any sport and why I like sport is that in the end, it's something that I remember. I forgot who said this. Oh, Bill Belichick said this. Everything in the NFL is earned, and you're only going to be remembered if you win.
Yeah.
If you lose,
that's in every sport, really.
Well, I don't know.
I
don't know about that.
Like even the ones that get remembered who are greats, like let's say like in the NBA, there's still always a stigma if you don't win. Look how much trash or look how much hate Charles gets. They always remind him he never won.
Yeah, he must hate that.
I mean, always. Like you see any segment, well, yeah, Truck, you've never got one of these.
Yeah, I mean, it happened. Like Marv Levy, he's not in the Hall of Fame because he never won, but if he's like top 5, like top 8 in all NFL wins, is crazy,
Yeah.
But
he's in the Hall of Fame, but there's always a stigma. He never got
one. He's kind of bitter about it. I've read.
Dan Marino? I'm sure
he doesn't like people bringing it up. Like,
salty. Malone is another one I've heard. Takes that real personally.
Yeah. I read that Stockton is a very humble guy, and he just said, "Look, I lost to Jordan. There's no shame in that," and he gave it his all. I was like, okay.
I mean, he did. No respect to Stockton. That guy was a beast.
Yeah, so I think he was competitive.
You ever hear Stockton stories? They're crazy. They're so good.
I want to still read his book because like apparently it's like a really underrated book, his biography that he wrote that like about his basketball career and how he views basketball in his life.
Old dude had the most assists, most steals, and probably will never be broken.
What's crazy is that like he probably went to the right team because apparently he likes to be low key. He doesn't even like doing.
Dude, he would roll up in a minivan.
Yeah, he wasn't like.
I forgot who, like, because like every NBA player now, like they always are on pods, like reliving moments. But someone was in their rookie year, and like one of their OGs, I forgot who this dude was, like a veteran, and said, "Yo, watch out! The coldest player around is gonna call him up." And here comes Stockton out of the minivan with like a dad polo, and he's like, "This guy," and then they play the game, and Stockton cooked that rookie. He's like, "Oh yeah, he's bad, man."
Yeah,
because you see some of the highlights. That dude was nasty.
Yeah,
but it looked like he could just be a soccer dad, just dropping off his kids. Like you wouldn't expect him to be a hooper.
Yeah, he was sneaky athletic, as they always say. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was. You don't get most steals, most assists all the time if you ain't athletic.
Yeah. And going back to just the book that I read is that one of the takeaways I got was like, I think why Michael Lewis was fascinated by covering this. And actually probably is one of his most famous books is because it's a story of an underdog that everybody appreciates. And it's sort of like finding value in the undervalued, which of course everybody appreciates who has actually gone through things in life. But I think why Michael Lewis was really compelled, in my opinion, why he was compelled to like not just write the book and like he would, really being like an advocate of like, of this story is like it really like touches like human nature, like in the sense of like, in one way you view it as a failure because they could never win and it was eventually copied and the team is in a better spot. Another way you could view it as a victory because they changed how people
They
view
revolutionized.
Yeah. And just depending on your perspective, it changes of how you view them. Because there's purists that still hate this baseball. Like, and he notes it. Like he says, like they're just
purists in every sport who hate changes. You hear it all the time. Every sport.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm one of those, so I can't even.
I mean, literally every sport. Like you could hear OGs and NBA complaining about today's game, right? You can hear people getting upset about like the style of offense run in the pros for NFL. Soccer, the same thing with VAR, right? Amongst other things. Like, how many times have you talked about how like some of the French like soccer philosophers just hate what happened to soccer?
Yeah,
Like,
actually, the one sport that seems like fans have overall been like happy with is,
NHL, maybe.
I was gonna say no because I've read this article, the tennis. So I'm not a tennis guy, but I was reading an article that they changed like the technology in the ball to make it like I think like slower, so you couldn't just dominate with the serve. So now you have more rallies, and fans love that. The more back and forth. Like, and like I think the racket technology changed too. While like if you look at some older, like let's say 90s and like 80s tennis, it was like if you can win, you basically often you could win your points in your first first four hits.
Yeah.
But now like because now there's more rallies and stuff, you have to be more athletic now and treat it like a
I would say I haven't, but I don't follow it as closely. But too many complaints on like rules or differences in the NHL.
NHL right now is in their own controversy about like is fighting good for the game or bad for the game. That's the big debate.
But I meant like more of the dynamics of the sport or revolutions in I don't know offensive play. I haven't heard.
That's true. I'm not knee deep into hockey. I know that the last controversial rule change they did was the like the blue line rule, right? The offside thing.
I like the blue line rule.
I think like before it wasn't there. I think the issue was like I think there's a lot of like just breakaway goals, but others, yeah. I mean, that's the only version of hockey I've known. So like I don't know what the other era was like.
Right.
At least with baseball, I can kind of remember. And the NFL, I definitely remember when it was a
well, no, but with the MLB today, at least what you can also have seen, very recent change was the pitch clock.
Yeah, that's a new one that they changed,
which I love.
I know you love it.
I can't. I've gotten way more into baseball because of that. Because I've always complained about how slow it was.
Well, now it's 40 on average, 40 minutes. Dude, it's crazy how they cut that much time.
It's so much faster, dude.
They cut so much time out.
Yeah, I was out of the game in 2 hours, 40 minutes or something like that. I was like, this is great.
Well, baseball writers are saying that they're putting the pitcher's health in danger. So we'll see what there's pushback.
They're idiots. These fossils. I do agree. They're fossils.
They are fossils, though. Oh yeah, I mean, I actually watch way more baseball now too. It's like, oh, this is so much more like enjoyable.
So fat, dude. I remember being at the ball club as a kid, just being like, dude, are we at? I mean, if you got rid of all the pauses, like in the NFL, if you actually have just moments of actual gameplay, most games break down to something like 15 to 20 minutes of actual like motion in the NFL. Like, I'm curious as to what it would be in an MLB game. Like if you distilled all the breaks, all the waiting, and just go pitch, 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 pitch. Like, how much would that actual gameplay be?
Who knows?
Not much, dude. I guarantee you could probably condense that in 4-hour game in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, what's interesting is that, to your point, I just remember watching, I think it was Giants Philly, and I was at home watching it, and then I remember it was like, I think like 45 minutes passed, and my mom comes in the living room and be like, wait, they're only on the third inning. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to watch the rest of this if this is going to be at this pace. Are you kidding me?
It's slow, and you better be damn sure it doesn't go to extra innings.
I know, dude. Like,
I
it's
remember seeing
brutal.
some like when I was a kid. I'm like, dude, it's a 5-hour game. This is turning into cricket.
Yeah, they've also done a rule change where, like, now in extra innings in the regular season, somebody has to start at second base.
I hate that rule.
So that it's easier to score, so the game can end.
That's stupid. I hate that rule.
It's all designed to make the game a little bit shorter.
I don't like that at all. Like, that's a dumb
Yeah.
rule. That one I will say is dumb.
So you just need a double to win the game, technically. So
I don't like that rule at all.
and then I think there's something else they did with stealing too.
Wait, I'm curious, and you might know the history of this in soccer, and then we'll finish up with the pod. I know for a period of time they had the golden goal and extra time.
Yeah.
Was that how it was originally, or did they go to the normal format that they have today, go to the golden goal, and then go back?
I actually don't know the history of that. I think it was probably the golden goal wasn't always there. So to your point, it's probably they had the different rules before the golden goal.
Yeah.
They probably went back. I think that one was more recent, where like some people
The
like
golden, because
goal.
no one does the golden goal anymore.
No, it's because the problem is that it's the same reason the NFL changed the overtime rules, is that they felt it was unfair for
It is
the opposing team not to have a chance to make a comeback.
Yeah.
The other controversial rule that was changed, this is a rule that everybody actually universally agreed. So when Denmark won the Euro Championship in '92, they found a little loophole. So in modern soccer, and this is the era I grew up in, when the goalkeeper picks up the ball, he unless he puts it down, passes to his teammate, and his teammate passes it back, everybody knows that the rule now is he can't pick it up again. He has to play with the feet. But before 1992, you could pick it up. So what Denmark did to win that championship was when they were 1-0, the defense would just give it back to the goalkeeper the whole game, and he would pass it back.
That so much.
And then he would pick it up, because you can't knock it out of his hands.
The goalkeeper can pick it up when it's
passed back from the
keeper. No. From the same player as if he's headed it back to him.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can find old clips of like Denmark. All they did was like the defender pass it back.
Oh, I hate that so much. I would have been furious.
People were furious, and it was so bad because other teams, it's how sports teams are. They started copying the same thing, so the whole tournament became this BS. So immediately after the tournament, FIFA was like, "We are changing this rule now." No, we're gonna destroy our sport if this is how we're gonna play soccer now. And then before that, the big rule change was the offside rule.
I'm curious if there was anyone who was actually mad that they changed that rule.
There was probably people who probably like scoring goals are probably mad, but
no. I meant in term for not the offside rule. That, like, when they changed it after the '92 tournament, if there was anyone that was mad that they're like, a goalkeeper can't pick it up if it's passed back to him.
Denmark was probably the only country mad about it. Everybody in the world was like, we need to save our sport.
Yeah.
So, like, are you kidding me? The whole game can't be the goalkeeper, because obviously they play while it's 0-0 because they need to score. But as soon as they were up, it just became this game of defense.
Yeah.
And they were like, are you kidding me, dude? So
Smart.
It is smart, but of course the Danes would figure that out. Anyways, final rush to the ending. Not the end.
Anyway, let's finish this up.
I'll let you go with with your review and rating of the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of hard to judge these films relative to other films that we review because, it's kind of like Friday Night Lights. It's a sports film that's kind of documentary-esque, where it's like recreating like actual events that happened. And it's very good. Like, I like the A's. I like the story. It's incredible what they achieved with that 20-win streak. To my knowledge, it hasn't been broken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think it's been broken.
I doubt it. It may never be broken. So, which is incredible that they actually own that stat of longest win streak in MLB history. So it is cool to see. I had no issues with the acting. It's just you can only take so many creative strides with a film like this when you're recreating it. And the pace at times was a little bit slow, but I'm a little bit biased. I like seeing the depiction. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to make sure the Cleveland Indians play in the American League, right? Well, the Cleveland Indians did it in 2017, 22 games in consecutive.
22 games is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going. Though.
Kudos to the Indian. Okay, well, up until that point, still an impressive streak, second longest streak. Right, and they really revolutionized the sport. So my whole point is it was a bit slow at times, but my personal bias of them depicting like the East Bay, a team in the A's that I actually like, it's going to bias my review a little bit, but I have to give this film a score an 8.5 out of 10.
I'm curious what your rating and review would be if they did a review of like the Sharks era.
Oh, I'd be so biased. It'd probably be a 10.
I don't know, dude. I'm not so sure I want to relive those losses.
If they ever did one on San Jose State, like a 20 out of 10, like too much.
Well, there used to be some like crazy story that happened there, but
with SJSU,
yeah, like one that like
there are some you could dig back, dude. If we ever reviewed something on like Speed City, I'd probably give it a high rating.
But yeah, I could see them.
You know Speed City, right, Chris? You went to SJSU. You better know.
I think I vaguely I mean, I was not.
Buddy, oh my god, dude!
I don't think it's. It sounds familiar, but like I feel like it's not.
Bro,
really,
this is what San Jose was famous for in civil rights era.
Is this the okay? That's what you mean, the sprinters. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Okay, that I do know. Okay, but I don't call it sprinters. I just looked at the statues and be like,
SJSU. San Jose was called Speed City during that time. Because like they produced a lot of like Olympic sprinters.
Yeah, that's true.
They had a good program for
and the famous. I just like that statue. That's my favorite statue. So
those statues,
real statue, real civil rights, not the fake stuff that people do now with the black square on their Instagram. Anyways, okay. Sorry, hot take.
Oh man, if we ever watch that 30 for 30 or something, or review that will be a long pod.
That's a good, yeah. You never finished the OJ Made in America, dude? That's one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen in my life, dude.
Well, there's quite a few. Have you ever seen the? Man, this is the problem. You get to start out on like sports docs and things. Did you ever see the one on University of San Francisco's 51 football team?
No.
Oh God, it's so good. They had 2 black players on their team and they were undefeated. They got invited to the Orange Bowl. But they said they could only come to Miami to play if they leave the 2 black football players behind. And the team unanimously said, no, we're not going.
I've read about this story. I haven't seen a doc, though. No, the last sports documentary I saw was about IndyCar. And Dan Weldon, I think, famous driver that died. And his kids are trying to become drivers. And it's a documentary how the kids are trying to connect with their dad through racing, even though they never saw him alive because he died. But and then I learned a lot about IndyCar, and I was just like, wow, this Daytona 500 is really exciting when I'm watching it here, but not when I'm watching it on TV because they're just going in the circle the whole time. But but anyways, I'll get to my rating.
Go ahead.
So basically, I thought Brad Pitt was really strong in this film. I thought it was one of his best performances that I can think of in this let's say modern era of Brad Pitt.
A modern era. Okay.
Yeah, modern era. I thought Jonah Hill was. I think this is Jonah Hill's movie that people were really shocked how like he was like this goofy actor and then he became this more serious actor a little bit. I obviously Moneyball is one of my favorite books that I read. It was, it's a good sports book is always worth the money. And Michael Lewis is a great writer, so he usually picks compelling stories. So I wasn't surprised that he picked this one. I mean, I didn't know he wrote this. I found this obviously decades later. And I would say that like my only critiques are really like it romanticizes a little bit too much. Maybe because I know what happened to the A's and was closer to what their downfall was, but it romanticizes too much, like how they were fighting with limited money. I don't think the book does that. I think the film does that a little bit, and that in the bigger picture, that ownership is why this team capitulated anyways. Yeah, we can talk about the city, but like the product on the field was impacted because of how they approach things with money across the board, right? like their payroll is always bottom 3. And then and then when they overachieve, we give them so much praise in our articles, but like, it's like when it goes wrong, this is what it looks like, right? What it looks like now. So I don't know. I kind of dinged the film on that a little bit. I think, some of the made up, not made up, but I guess like some of the I mean, these are real people, real characters, like real players. But I feel like they were just placed in there to like show a certain thing, like, oh, we charge for water here, the vending machines, it's not free like other teams. And I get those things are kind of little nuggets that we need as an audience if you're not familiar with the baseball team and this stuff. But I just feel like they just had actors play some players just because, it was interesting to see what's his face play the pitcher that had the weird the first baseman. What's his name? He's a famous actor now. He was on Parks and Rec.
Which guy?
It's the guy that was like, remember he was like not a first baseman, and then he had to teach him how to play first base.
Oh yeah, I forgot the guy's name. Yeah, I was like,
but like,
so familiar.
I have him, Chris Pratt.
Oh yeah.
I had forgotten that he was in this film. I was like, wow, he's in this film. That's crazy. Anyway, so my review basically is 7 out of 10.
Gotcha. Oh, I just want to add a little bit of context. So the storyline that I forgot a little bit about the 90s with how San Francisco acquired the territorial rights to the South Bay. There's a little I guess I left out some details because I'm still a little hazy. I haven't read up on this in a while. But I did want to say, so in 1990, when there was some basically tumultuous decisions as to whether SF was going to stay in San Francisco, or I'm sorry, the Giants were going to stay in San Francisco or come down to San Jose. Apparently, there was a meeting between the A's and Giants ownership, and on a handshake agreement, the territorial rights to San Jose were given by the A's to the Giants. And I forgot the exact details of how that came about, but that always like annoyed the bejesus out of me as someone who was born in San Jose. But yeah, you can read more about it later, Chris, since you're not familiar as to all of these. It's like, if you're talking about history of where we grew up, this explains a lot.
Man, it's crazy. I got to read this.
What?
But more importantly, I got to read this because I could have, if they had moved to San Jose, I could have finally seen championships in my own city, dude. Like, not this BS the Sharks
Yeah,
give
you
me.
didn't know all this history, did you?
No, I didn't know. I knew that
there's a lot in like the late 80s, early 90s. There was a lot that was going on with baseball's potential move to the South Bay.
But now San Jose will never. It's more likely they're going to lose teams than gain them.
San Jose just has this. We have this inferiority complex where Silicon Valley have a lot of money, but we're irrelevant. No one really knows where the heck it is, and they always get shafted when it comes to a lot of major decisions.
Yeah,
I don't think you disagree with that one bit.
I don't. Anyways,
all right. Well, anyway, on this. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. This is your episode.
All right, that's my episode. Yeah, I would say, appreciate, the audience for listening. Please like and subscribe. Let us know if there's any, movies you want us to consider for the pod. But yeah, this is we're out on episode 74.